Here, I have 5:30, so let's call the meeting to order. Elizabeth, if you would call the roll.
Yes, let's do it. Tom Weatherby.
Here.
Daniel Percy. Here. Ben Purdy.
Here.
Ryan Blessing.
Here.
Dan Duffany.
Here.
Ben Hale.
Here.
With 6 of 6 members, we have a quorum. The meeting is now open.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, superintendent's report.
All right, I have 3 things this month. The first was I was asked to speak on the student-led conference conversation we had 2 meetings ago. And so I wanted to provide the context for that. And so we introduced student-led conferences on a light version, not last year, but the school year prior to that. And then this year, Principal Peter Morio wanted to make it a bigger, more refined part of the second semester conferences. So he worked with the teachers to create a plan, really set the guidelines up, and the teachers then did most of the work planning it. We had the conferences, we had exceptional feedback at the time of the conferences. There was a Facebook post asking for additional feedback a little while later, and we received, I received 2 emails that both basically stated that they would prefer or enjoyed the traditional conference more, and or would at least like an opportunity to talk to the teacher one-on-one about their child present. I then received a 3rd email that also went to Peter and also Aaron Schulten, our counselor, that accused or questioned whether the conferences were a violation of FERPA, so federal law, and then also questioned the validity of the instructional time. So at that point, the decision was made by the board to put the conference on the agenda as a discussion item for the following meeting. And when that discussion item posted, multiple teachers asked me why we're discussing conferences at the board meeting. And I then sent an email to the staff late on a Friday afternoon outlining why it was on the agenda, and said that they wanted to comment or provide feedback. That was the time to do so. And so that was the extent of my communication with the staff. I stand behind what was said. I think it was a hastily written email at the end of the day on a Friday. And I think I've written close to 40,000 emails since I started. So there's bound not to have perfect wording in every single email that I've written over that time. But the teachers are the ones who had done the work planning it. They're the ones who needed the feedback for what worked for them, so they could help make sure that it was adjusted on their end to meet the needs the following year. Second item on my list, I had a meeting a couple weeks ago with Sutton's Bay Superintendent, Wheeland Superintendent, and if you remember, probably 6 years ago, we had North Bay as a soccer and girls basketball sport. We then, Sutton's Bay had a new superintendent, and he received some pressure from his community to drop the North Bay joint venture. We maintained our co-op but lost the North Bay branding. If we're looking at moving forward, even Sutton's Bay with Northport co-oping, and then also Wheeland are struggling to have enough numbers for certain activities. The first 3 right now would be baseball and softball, which Wheeland co-ops softball with St. Mary's, and they don't offer baseball. And then also their first robotics team has struggled to get off the ground. Sutton's Bay and Northport combined have softball, baseball, and robotics. And so over the coming months, we would like to talk to all three boards to work on a joint resolution, looking at how can we create partnerships that will benefit all three districts. And besides giving our students potentially opportunities to more activities, it would also move towards a rebranding that was sort of community neutral. So it would be like a North Wheeling sports teams. That would be a joint effort between the three districts. Nothing's happening with that. I'm only mentioning that today because I'm assuming that next month there will be some draft resolution that I can share that we've agreed to, the superintendents have agreed to bring to the boards. The final piece, as far as staffing goes, you'll see that we have 2 positions filled today. One is a bus driver. We've just been in flux with our number of bus drivers since we had a few retire a couple years ago. We've got a couple that we have trained and have moved. And so we're always looking for bus drivers. And Rick Deering, who's been one of our subs, will continue to be a sub, but he's looking to step back from that role. So Patrick has transitioned from being a custodian to the bus driver. You'll also see on the agenda today a new mental health specialist. She actually is the wife of Sutton's Bay's high school principal, and she blew the yarn out of the water. And we're really hoping that the board approves that hire. The last 2 positions, one is not posted yet, but Heidi, we did retire a couple board meetings ago, but we've not posted because we're usually slightly overstaffed for custodial staff in the summer, and we'll need a night custodian come the fall. And then the last one is we still do have the 3rd grade vacancy as Alex Post transitioned from 3rd grade to special ed. I know that there are probably half the districts in the ISD right now currently have an elementary position that's open. So there's still lots of moving pieces. And we'll work on getting that filled before the end of the summer. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. Getting back to the student-led conference issue, with all due respect, I think you really sugar-coated your communication with the teachers. So I've seen the email and I was suspicious of it before, and I thought maybe we were misrepresented, but maybe not in as crass terms, but reading this kind of shocked me. And this is, I realize I'm a board member, but I'm also a parent, and I was a parent who I felt was a target of that. So I'll read this email. It's good morning. The drafting of this email saddens me. We have a school board member who I think for personal reasons is adamantly opposed to student-led conferences. This board member has stated that they don't see how the preparation for the conferences is good use of instructional time. Additionally, they assert that any form of group discussion around student progress and students publicly sharing in class how they are doing is a violation of FERPA. Both of these claims are categorically false and ill-informed at best. This board member appears to have rallied a second board member, that's me, and one additional parent to her side. I do not want to and will not work in a school that doesn't see the value of self-reflection, space retrieval, summarization, goal setting, and students taking ownership of their learning. Student-led conferences will be on the agenda Monday. I will refute this board member's claims and express my disgust in this debate. If you feel even somewhat as passionate about this as I do, or just want to retain control over how we drive learning, this is the time to be vocal. I encourage you to attend the board meeting. After the agenda post today, I encourage you to write the board. If you had parents who appreciated the conferences, encourage them to attend or write. A lot of the stuff in there, I wasn't against the student-led conference, and I realize Jamie's may have sounded a little more alarming, but knowing her and her son, I kind of understand why she was concerned about that. I didn't have the same concerns. My concerns were that my son had some behavioral issues that I wanted to talk to the teachers one-on-one, and I wasn't given that opportunity. And then when I gave the feedback, again, it wasn't that I was against student-led conferences. I could read my feedback again. I've already done it once. It is available publicly, but it was just regular, and I wrote as a parent. And I feel like these things could have been addressed one-on-one. You addressed it at the board, the concerns about FERPA, and I thought that was fine. But what I have an issue with is now we feel estranged from the staff at this school because of this. How much is in our head? How much is real? I don't know. But the problem is that they were all rallied here against us. And so, I mean, I think parents should have a right to give feedback. Parents should have a right to speak openly. Parents should have a right to disagree without feeling any, like they're being rallied against. And then when we did bring this up, we were told that, oh, it wasn't us, it was insinuated that it was our guilty conscience is why we were speaking up. Well, the email's right here. And no, she didn't rally us to her side. We all just had our opinions about it, and that was it. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff that you're saying that we're against, we're not against that stuff. I mean, and again, I'll read my feedback, and I just think it was something that I just would have liked to have talked to some of my son's teachers about some of these issues that we were having so that we could work through it. That's all. So the thing I'm concerned about is how can we feel like this relationship is repaired? Because right now, to be honest, we're kind of one step in looking at school of choice, because if we believe that a good, strong relationship between parents and the teacher is important to an education, and if we can't have that, then we got to go find it elsewhere. And the thing is, this to me was just kind of the smoking gun. This was just one piece of evidence that we could bring the receipts, but this is something that we've been kind of feeling for much longer than this, ever since we started trying to engage with the school and asking questions. But, we weren't sure, again, how much was us and how much was, just lack of communication or misunderstanding. But when we see this, then it points the arrows at the other issue. And I just don't think there should be such a wall against people who are not staff of the school. So, I would like to see something to where we could repair this, because again, it was never about the teachers. I just gave some feedback. I haven't questioned any curriculum or any of the school's practices as far as teaching. I thought the teachers were doing a great job. But I don't think I've been well represented. And then I also know there's stuff that gets posted. There was a comment by one parent that got posted in the teacher's lounge, and it's highlighted some of the negative stuff that was put in there. So maybe that's fair, but at the same time, I feel like we were misrepresented in this email. So I don't know if that stuff was put in, communicated to the teachers in good faith of like, hey, here's some feedback, thought you might all want to know. Let's talk about it. But I after reading this, it's hard for me to believe. I feel naive if I think that, okay, well, everything else is fine.
So Ben, how would you suggest repairing that? You said you'd like to see it get repaired and move on. How would you suggest that we could repair it?
Well, an apology would be good, and then intention behind it. But then again, it's not my responsibility to come up with the solution.
No, but since you've identified the problem, I'm hoping you can help with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
But then again, it's,
It takes both, you can't fix it on your own, I understand that. But I'm just asking your opinion on it, so that everybody could hear what you thought would be a good thing to do.
I don't know, the thing I would just like to know, or like, especially the teachers to understand that, like, we had no ill intention with this. It was not not calling into question anybody's professional abilities. I understand they're the professionals. I was just giving some feedback. And, yeah, we ask questions, yeah, we might have disagreements. I have people that do that with me at my job, and I can say I'm the one that knows more about what I do than anybody probably in the county. But I gotta listen to that feedback. So I would like to get back to feeling like I got a good, comfortable relationship with my kids' teachers.
Then why don't you communicate with them?
Yeah,
Why are you worried
you're
about
I feel like you're putting this on me.
No, I'm asking the question. We don't have to bombard Neil with all these emails. If you wanna communicate with your student's teacher, then communicate with the teacher.
Should I read my feedback again? Okay, I guess I gotta read it.
I don't understand. If you wanna talk to your student's teacher, then reach out to them. There should be a process that starts at
Yeah,
the lowest
and
point.
here, let me
and works out to the
read,
top.
what I wrote. I said, "Good evening, Neil. I wanted to offer some feedback as a parent regarding the new parent-teacher conference format. Although I enjoyed the presentation that my kids gave, I still would like to have had the opportunity to meet with teachers privately. Ms. Fortine was present for questions, especially any that came up during the presentation. We didn't have any issues to discuss and all went relatively well. But I think it's important that parents and teachers have the opportunity to speak freely without concern that the student is present. With Charlie, we really would have liked to have talked with all of his teachers directly, especially given the recent behavioral issues that affected his academics last semester. Although Ms. Evans was present, her feedback was limited to what she experienced directly. I understand that making an appointment with other teachers may be an option, but having a time when all of his teachers are available on a single night is much easier for both parties. Overall, I see the benefit of students leading this process, and I'm still in support. However, I think one-on-one time between parents and teachers is equally important and should not be replaced." That was my comment, apparently, that was trying to wrest control of teaching standards from students.
I can't find anything objectionable in your comment.
Likewise.
I think part of the problem was that the three emails were received they were within hours of each other. And one email did question teachers, and I think there was some unfortunate conflation there.
Okay, but I still feel like the damage is done, and I have tried to reach out to a couple teachers that I felt comfortable with. I didn't get a response from one, that's fine, I left it open as like, if you don't feel comfortable responding or whatever, let it be. The other teacher, it was only during my work hours, and so it was hard for me to make that time.
Sure.
And so I would still like to meet, but it was, the time that was available was only in the mid-afternoon. And if I'm lucky, I get home at 6.
Right.
And
especially
if
this
I
time
don't
of
go,
year.
the boat doesn't go and kids lose their field trip, so that was the issue there.
Sure.
But again, like, we can work to make some sort of hybrid deal like this. I mean, we could do like a conference night that's like senior project night for the kids and still do project or conferences somewhere else.
And that's fine, that's fine, but that's, okay, I'm not gonna get into the weeds over whether or not student-led conference is a good idea or not. That's not what this is about. It's the fact that we gave our feedback, which was solicited, and then the teaching staff was rallied against us. And I feel like that has damaged, at least in our mind, the relationship that we wanted to have with our teachers.
I think some of the miscommunication is on my shoulders, because I think after talking with Neil, sounds like a big part of what prompted his email was the fact that it was a discussion item on the agenda. And a discussion item is one motion away from action.
Okay.
And so, in hindsight, having gotten context from staff and administration, it seems like most of the upset was the escalation from Jamie's email, or I don't know which exactly came first, parents to Jamie's to discussion item on the board. on the agenda. I asked Neil to put it on the agenda because I thought the FERPA concerns were absolutely board purview. What I didn't communicate to Neil was that was the only part that I thought was board work. The instructional time, student-led conferences, that Neil wasn't even involved in that. That was a teacher and principal thing. And so that was my failing to say, hey, let's put this on the agenda to address the legal concerns. And I think that escalation is what caused the upset, not your email or your comments. Like I said, I can find nothing objectionable with your email. I don't think Neil or the staff or anybody else could either.
Right,
So
well,
I'm sorry for that failing on my part.
I appreciate it, but I don't really think this is your apology to give.
Well, a piece of it
Yeah,
is.
and that's fine, but I'm trying to think of a way that we could rebuild this trust. And, you know, again, we all got lumped together, and again, this is like, ever since the PTO, where we were trying to engage that way, we just really felt the cold shoulder. And again, we thought, well, maybe it's just in our head, maybe it's not really, maybe it's misunderstanding, but then when it escalated to this, that's why I said in my comment back in April that I fear that this is a cultural problem. And I don't know how to get assurance or how to fix that. So, and I think now we do have this trust issue of, and that's why you're getting FOIA'd information, because I think that trust isn't there.
Any other comments from the board or Neil on ways to move forward, or?
I'm happy to talk whenever you'd like to talk.
Okay.
Certainly, nobody at the school wants bad relationships with parents, because it only makes things harder and it hurts the students. So I think there is the will on both sides to improve the relationship. So that's encouraging. I don't know how to, because I'm not the aggrieved party. I mean, if I had the answer on what could rebuild that trust for you, I would certainly tender it. But I am encouraged that, you know, everybody wants to move forward in a positive light. So, you know, I'll put it out there that if I can help, you know, if there's something I haven't thought of, you know, please reach out.
Okay.
You know, I've told Neil I thought the email was a mistake, and I told the teachers that I met with that, you know, I didn't think their letter was productive, but you know, everybody is entitled to mistakes or their point of view. I'm not even saying that, you know, the teachers made a mistake or anything like that, perhaps in delivery, but, you know, I can't tell them how to feel, and
We can't undo it.
I can't undo it. All
Right.
we can do is try and do better in the future, so
And find a way to move forward.
I'd like to.
If you can't move forward, then you need to do something else. I mean, there's, gotta work together if we're going to work.
Anything else for superintendent's report? Okay, next we have public comments, and we've got a lot of folks here today. So, I am gonna try and limit everybody to 3 minutes, and just reminder that, you're addressing the board and no one else in the room, and that, the board will not reply to questions asked during the public comment. So, Eric, I see your hand first.
Yes, hello. Eric Popes, 712 Ransom. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight to you, the board. This is a separate comment from later on's appointment. This is me as a parent. I'd love to hear the comment that was left out on the teacher's table for the teachers to read that was highlighted. If that came out later, that'd be nice to hear. Neil, for the first time, acknowledged the student-led conference disaster, to call it. So that was his first acknowledgement of it in many, many months, over half of a year. So thank you for acknowledging it. I did, however, feel that it was a half-hearted acknowledgement, lacking an apology. I thought it very incorrectly glossed over everything that happened. So to relay it out, myself, Ben Hale, and Jamie Scripps all wrote an email to the administration that was asked for through Facebook. We'd like to hear your feedback. How did it go for you? They were not orchestrated. And even if they were orchestrated, guess what? That doesn't matter. It's 3 emails and they can be responded to professionally. However, both mine and Ben's did not carry the same concerns that Jamie's did. Ours very much came from the angle of wanting to retain that one-on-one time with the teacher during that time, because we know the teachers are so busy and have a hard time meeting outside of their hours. So for me, it was important to retain that traditional one-on-one for my family, and that was the scope of my email, and I believe the scope of Ben's. Now Jamie's was a bit different. Instead of getting responded to after the district asked for feedback, instead of getting responded to, I came to a board meeting with all the teachers sitting here in silent solidarity against myself and Ben Hale and Jamie, just for saying that I would like to have that little bit of time. So that's why my wife and I have been so upset with that. I want to go ahead and say that once I made a stink about this, there was damage control behind the scenes. Yourself, Ben, right? Ben and then Ryan Blessing all met with me and said that it wasn't me. I was not the parent that was being referred to, okay? That it was other parents. And I called your bluffs as hard as I could, and you couldn't give me any other parents. You know, you couldn't be candid with me. And I called your bluff, and I'm glad I did, because I then FOIA'd the email, and we all know now who the parent was, right? It was me, it was Ben, and it was Jamie, when you guys lied to me, to my face. So these are the reasons why FOIAs are going out, because there's like a huge disconnect and a distrust between parents and the administration right now. The question was asked, well, how can we move forward? You said that, Tom. You said, how can we move forward? What could be done? I think first, a real acknowledgement of the situation. Yeah, an apology, but even if those didn't even come, we don't need acknowledgements from the superintendent or that. What we need is board oversight. We need board oversight to oversee the conduct of our superintendent and how he talks with our parents. So that's my wrap up of the SLC, and I also want to say that it seems that the public needs to see some receipts of this, and so I can provide that on my campaign page, because I do have it all chronologically ordered, everything I sent to you all, and maybe the folks that are here need to see that so they can really gain an understanding of what really happened, because I think a lot of this is getting glossed over. Thank you.
Jennifer Wack, 10261 North Nelson. I haven't been to a school board meeting in a long time. I have 3 kids that have attended this school. I have 2 that I've pulled out from many of these same issues. There's a culture here of distrust. I've had a superintendent shake his finger in my face for me making a comment on the displeasures that I had seen in some of the responses from teachers, a lack of oversight I have seen multiple times over the students or teachers not quite monitoring the kids in what they put out. I'm really sorry to see that this is happening like continuously. So it seems like it is a decades-long cultural issue here. Tom, you're the only thread that I see here that's the same, but I don't blame it on you or anything like that, but it seems like this has been on for a long time, and I just wanted to make that comment.
Jennifer, any other comments?
We will have another public comment period at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Molly Brendel, first grade teacher. I just wanted to say, in other school districts that I've been involved with, parents have very, very little access to their superintendent, and I appreciate Ryan's comment. The first line is the teacher. Parents should be coming to the teacher with everything. Anytime you have an issue, you come to the teacher. That was completely skipped over, and that does diminish our understanding of how you view us as professionals. I know that all the teachers in this school would meet, and I understand that sometimes it can't be after hours, but quite often before school and after school on our lunch hours. So I appreciate Ryan's comment. That should be the first line, that coming to the teachers. Conferences also, as a parent and as a teacher in other districts, you got 5 minutes. If you're expecting to come to that conference and talk about an issue that you're having with your child, you have no time for that to happen. So any of those issues, and we have been advised that by our administration here as well, you should have already been talking to those parents. Those are issues that you've had communications with, you've talked to the teacher, as a parent, as a teacher, you've reached out to that parent. A conference time is actually not that time for you to be airing those grievances. Those are communications that should have happened repeatedly throughout that semester or that time. And I know that in reference to the student-led conferences, it has been explained in personal one-on-one conversations with a number of people that when the teachers came to the board meeting that night, we did not come out against any parents. We did not come out against the board. What we came out for was in support of what we knew to be best practice for students, what we had been working on achieving, and in support of our administration. So whether our letter came off wrong or defensive or in an aggressive way, we were not coming out against anyone. And that is a point that I know has been made in personal one-on-one conversations with some of the parents who claimed that that was our issue, and that was not at all what our goal was. Our goal was to show support for the things that we had been working on and for our administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Any other comments?
Callie Dignan, Vincerway. I just wanna say Eric Post deserves to be on the board. You guys don't like him tonight, he'll get voted on in November, so I think you should just try to do that. Talking to the teachers is great, I do agree, but parent-teacher conferences, parents have that little bit of time. Ben's been having a hard time trying to even talk to the teachers, so it's good to have them all there that night when we all have that night off and plan for that. I don't know why that was such a big deal. And I think you guys did come off as a bit aggressive because, Mr. Weatherby's email got you all fired up to do so. And it showed through the way you conveyed that in your letter and the way you read it and student solidarity. So it's just a shame. You guys are all well educated that you just take one person's word for things and run with it like that. And it hurts the community and the parents. So, well,
Thanks, Kelly. Any other comments at this time? Wendy?
Wendy Frank, and I just wanted to say that Frank family also, would appreciate if the board would consider Eric. We think that he would be a great asset, not only for the community, but for the board. We think that he could bring some light. I know he seems, he's like your, locked in go-to guy, but I do really think that he might be able to bring just a little bit of light to the board, open up some constructive conversations about other things that can happen, and I just really think that he would be an asset, so I hope that you guys would take that into consideration tonight, because otherwise he'll just be voted in November. So you might as well just get it over with now. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Any others? Okay. Next we have written correspondence. And apologize, I don't have a list this month, but I know we received several from Eric Coates. I believe that's the only correspondence the board has received since the last meeting. I don't have the dates in front of me. Any other board members know of
July 9th, June 29th. Cali is on June 10th.
I don't remember if that was before our
That
last
was
meeting or
before
not.
our last one, I think. So.
Thank you. All right, well, next we have our board member candidate interviews, and we have two this time around, Eric Coates and Carrie Wattis. And I'd like to give each candidate about 5 minutes if they want to address the board, and then give board members an opportunity to ask candidates questions. And then from there, a board member will nominate somebody, and then we will vote. And if the person gets 4 votes, then they are seated on the board. And if not, then we will seek another nomination and try for votes there. So that's just a little bit of the process. Would either of you like to go first?
No? Okay, thank you, yeah, appreciate that, Scott. All right, Eric Coates, 712 Ransom. I am the father of a current student in 4th grade, gonna be in 5th. I am an alumnus of 03, live here in Northport with my family. I'll cut right to the chase. I've been wanting to get on this Board of Education for a couple of years now. I started off as kind of a small desire that I just kind of itched at me in the back of the head. And then it became stronger as I became more involved in the school, started to become a coach, started being more involved in the PTO, the intricacies of the inner workings of the school. The desire to become a board member became much stronger. Why that is I believe, and I think this is probably a controversial topic, but I believe that NPS is in the red zone as far as enrollment. I know we have the money to carry 80 students through school or 60, but I don't think a lot of families are gonna want to put their children in a school that large. My opinion is we're in the red zone and we need radical change and new ideas and new willingness to work together to move forward. I think that if we're all smart and scientific people, if we look back at the last 12-year trend, and I did not bring the graph, but it's a plummeting, downward linear graph, starting at 186 down to 114. And it's just, I'd like to plug that leak first of all, and then work on rebuilding it. I think that I would be a board member who may have one of the best chances at being able to reach out into our community at some of the families who choose not to go here and have the best opportunity to possibly bring them back in the fold. I have a good, nice bead and line on many of the families here in Northport and why they don't attend, why they do attend. And I believe that if certain families saw some change or something radically different going on, especially within the boardrooms and the leadership aspect, they may have a new idea about where they want to send their children, or at least maybe try to protect, identities. There are many families in Northport right now who are trying to make that decision about where to send their kids, after Montessori or after this or after that. I want to bring transparency to this board. I don't believe that it's operated on a fully transparent level for some time, and I want to help us do that. And I'm not trying to say that as a threat. I'm trying to say that as someone who truly wants to work together with all of you, not just Ben, but all of you. Because I love Northport School, and I love this town, and that should show. I believe the whole town is in peril, not just the school. I believe that we're turning into a resort retirement community that rolls up the red carpet in the winter and rolls it back out in the spring. I fought hard to save, I fought hard to bring affordable housing into this community, thinking that we could attack the school problem from that angle. I'm in our community actively trying to help this school, but the one thing I don't think we can move forward from until it's rectified is the culture that is built within the administration, not the teachers, not the students, and not the parents, the administration. It would be an honor to serve, not only for my family, but for all the kids and all the parents, all the people that are in those Hanover results. in the quote section. I wanna stand up for them. I wanna stand up for all the people that are in my inbox who are privately trusting me with, hey, I'm this parent, and this is what happened, and oh my gosh, am I in the Hanover results? And just, this is a thing. It's a real thing, and the sooner we open our eyes and acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge it, then the better we can do. I mean, let me just go back to the graph. Northport School is dying. Now, some people say it's not dying. We got money, we're building money. That is not community. That is not true community. I'd rather be in a school where the parents had to buy crappy sneakers for their kids and put together a real junky little play or a Northport thing and have camaraderie and trust and transparency than I would to be in a rich school that acts as we do. So board, yeah, I want to work hand in hand with you. I want to be an ally, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have hard questions, the same as I have been having. That's how I operate and how I can sleep at night. So thank you so much for listening to me. Yeah, like I hope to be voted on. But if not, I'm gonna really campaign hard, and I hope to be voted on in November. And I'd love to have a seat up there with you guys and be a part of the school that I went to, save this school, save Northport, all of it, community, the school, all of it. So thank you all.
Are we asking questions at this
Oh,
point? or-
yeah.
Yeah, I would open it up to the board members if they had any questions for Eric.
So Eric, what sort of relevant experience do you have that would help you being a board trustee?
So, no relevant experience as far as like teaching, like other candidates might have,
Or
or
other boards you've sat on, or?
no, I have sat on a board. I guess technically I've sat on the Parks and Rec, which doesn't have any physical power.
It is a board.
I've been very, very involved for years with the township and the village board as a public commenter slash, powerhouse to get things done. So I'm very involved in the inner workings of a board and how it operates. But yeah, I'm not gonna try and say that I have all these great qualifications. I just have a bachelor's degree in radiology. I mean, I'm just a normal dad here wanting to see change, and I believe I could bring that to this board, regardless of my possible lack of qualifications.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah.
This is always an awkward thing. The Open Meetings Act means that we have to do all these discussions out in front of everyone. So one of the questions I'd ask, because of your experience on Parks and Rec and some of the other boards on there, you have a bit of a reputation of being somewhat of a hothead. I know we've talked about this personally, so I just wanted to give you a chance to address that and say how would you moderate that?
Well, I think that you can call me whatever you like, but what I do think is that the community and the people that are truly watching and surround, they know the truth.
So what truth?
The truth is that I'm not a hothead.
Okay.
The truth is that I'm a professional person who always acts with integrity, but I sometimes unfortunately have hard questions that make people uncomfortable.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get out, is
Yeah.
give you a chance to address that elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Eric?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could explain, what do you see as a board member's role in oversight, as far as ethics, legalities, parental concerns, policy draft?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I think the board member's role is providing oversight for all of the policies, all of the administration, all of the inner workings of the school. I mean, what you just described is exactly what I think a board member is hired to do. Can you give more context to your question?
I guess, how deep should our fingers be in the operation of the school? Like, when does it become micromanaging? When does it become just regular oversight and guidance?
Micromanagement. Yeah, that's a hard question because micromanagement is a subjective term. And so I've heard it in this exact boardroom and other boardrooms where people don't want to be micromanaged because of comments or suggestions. I've heard suggestions come to the board and then board members say that's micromanagement. And I think that term is subjective. I think that people could feel they're being micromanaged when they're being questioned about something. to me, I don't think oversight and micromanagement have a very distinct line in between them. I think that if something is perceived as micromanagement, it can be called out upon by the majority of the board, because that's why we have a board full of people, and it can be nixed immediately. But I think questions that are perceived as micromanagement is a shame, especially historically here.
I've got another one unless someone else wants.
Go ahead.
So what do you see as the ideal way for a parent to engage with the school as far as ideas, concerns, feedback?
Yeah, I think the ideal way for a parent to engage with the school is within their comfort zone. So many parents can't because of socioeconomic reasons. Maybe come from a split home or working two jobs or what have you. But I think that a parent's involvement in the school is directly related to their ability to be involved. And I think that it's a duty of your parent, of a parent, to stay involved with the school and the whole curriculum, the daily goings-ons, everything, you know, attending a few board meetings. I mean, that's me. I operate as a different kind of parent than most. But I think parents really need to have their fingers in their child's education, because to me, it's not just an education. I know we tout so much academics, but school, the word school to me is education, extracurriculars, socialization, all these pillars coming out to one thing that's the true experience that well rounds the child. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, I don't think there's a limit to how involved a parent's fingers can be in the school.
Eric, you mentioned several times about oversight and management of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of different ways of looking at a board and administration. One is that they're part of the same team, a management team. The other is an adversarial sort of relationship. Do you see one or the other, or something else entirely?
Are you referring to as if I was on the board, what do you?
What our role should be? Should the board's role be an adversarial situation with the administration of a school, or should it be part of the same management team, or is there some other third thing you think?
Yeah, I don't think it should be part of the management team per se. I think it should be an oversight and a partnership, a kind, professional relationship. But no, this is not. I mean, the board is not supposed to. I'm sorry, but the board is the boss of the superintendent. And so I don't think it's supposed to be viewed as a strict team where everyone's on the exact same page. I think it's okay to have questions and to talk and to deliberate. And I think that when those things happen in this boardroom, things get tense.
I think questions and deliberation are important. Just so you know, the Michigan Association of School Boards refers to the administration and the school board as the management team of a school. Okay. I mean, that's their definition there.
Yeah.
But there's degrees.
Sure.
Any other board member questions for Eric?
In meetings past, you made comments about wanting to get more parents back here at school. Have you been actively doing that prior to this, or are you planning?
Yeah, but there's only a couple of families I'm working on right now that I feel like will pull the trigger. But I feel like when people start to see active change, and I made a comment, maybe anyone saw this, it's on my campaign page, but I'd like this community to be resurveyed, Hanover style, whatever, in 5 years, and see where we sit then. I think that there is a very large demographic of children in this community that don't go to school here. Granted, I do think we pull some in, but I think that, let's just say we're pushing out 55 and bringing in, say, 30 or 25, it's still a huge disparity. And also, imagine what our school would be like if we could pull those kids that live here. Imagine what it would be like in these hallways. Imagine what our kindergarten might be like, what our first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade would be like. Imagine what some of our extracurriculars could be like. like, yeah, going back, that is my biggest thing, why I wanna be on the board, is to build our numbers. Absolutely, and the way I feel like I can do that is by having an in with many folks and being able to have those grassroots conversations and to show them, this is what's going on at Northport, here's some changes we've made, things are going great. And it would start with a small trickle, but it is a small trickle going out anyway. You look at the graph, and I just, you know, I don't know if that answers your question, right?
It's good enough for now.
Any others? I just had one. You said, you think the school needs radical change. I just wondered, what you meant like that,
Yeah.
turning into an IB school,
No.
or a STEM school, or what kind of radical change?
So
are
the
you
radical
seeing
change
would be
I'm
better?
speaking to is directly tied to the Hanover results. And what I and the community have seen is that it is not just housing that is pushing people away from our school. It's a distrust and a dissatisfaction with our school administration. And it's data. And this is not something like, the thing about the Hanover, why I even FOIA them, is I'm tired of feeling like we're crazy, right, parents? Like, having them, no, we're not. We finally seen the data that the majority, like, it's not just me, it's not just those people that write you guys emails. There's so many people that sit in the back burner because they don't feel able to stand up. They don't feel entitled to stand up. They don't even, maybe they don't feel courageous enough to stand up. It doesn't matter their reasons. But I wanna be those people's voice too. And I believe that there is a disconnect. And so that radical comment that I made, a radical change, really refers to this room. And especially the kind of like the going-ons in the past year that we've been experiencing. So.
Any other questions for Eric? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to me, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, Carrie.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Wattis, and Eric, I appreciate your sincerity when talking about our community and about our gym of the school. So in previous written correspondence to the board, I formally stated my desire to fill the current board vacancy. My intention is to run for the Board of Ed in this coming November election. Education has always been a top priority in my life, in my family. I have 20 years' experience as an elected board member in a top school district in Indiana. I'm the mother of 4 highly successful children, and I'm about to be a grandparent for the 6th time, and he will attend Northport Public School. I taught music in a private Catholic school in Indianapolis directly after college for 3 years. And I taught music at Northport School for 8 years, and with the help of you all and the administration, revived the band and music program. I wish to continue to grow as an advocate for strong educational experiences for our students, our staff, and our community. I will prioritize the educational welfare of all of our students. I will focus on policy and budgeting while leaving the daily school administration and workings to the superintendent and principal and staff. I will act as a member of a cohesive board and respect board decisions rather than having the mentality of a board of one. I feel like, and I know this from my past experience, that I am signing up to be on call 24 hours a day to our community, and I'm ready for that. I love doing that. I thrive at doing that. I crave it. I will engage in professional development as for board members through the Michigan Board of Education, Department of, what's it called? Association of Board of School Trustees. And I will actively seek community input. With no hidden agendas, I believe that I will be an asset to the board. So thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you, Carrie. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Wattis?
One question, I know that you will have to stop substitute teaching and that,
I know,
so there's a
I
sacrifice.
figured
in
that out, and I will miss that so much, because the things that go on, I'm witness to it in this building as a teacher and as a sub, are a step above what anyone really could imagine. The best experiences for our students, the most caring teachers who are available and make themselves available to anybody with phone calls. I know one teacher actively texts parents during the school day, your student has poison ivy. I just wanted you to know, and can I do anything? So besides looking out for the students' educational experiences, they really focus on the whole child. And they're able to do that because of all the groundwork that you guys have laid and the intentions and the knowledge of people in charge. Did I answer your question?
So I'll just ask the same question I asked if.
I don't remember what it was.
Yep, so what do you see as a board member's role in oversight? Whether it be the administration or superintendent, we're talking ethics, legalities, parental concerns, and policy draft.
So the board is a check and balance for the superintendent. The superintendent's doing their job, the board is doing their job. If the superintendent is not doing their job, then it is the board's responsibility to figure out what needs to be improved upon in order to better the experience. And I'm not insinuating anything, I'm talking in generalities. But we are policymakers as a board. As a board, we are in control of the money and the budget. That is our sole responsibility, with, of course, the help of the professionals in our building. The board does not get into day-to-day operations with individual students. The board, if someone came to me and was having a problem with little Johnny, I would listen to them and want to know what was going on. But as one board member, I can't really do anything but direct that parent to the teacher. And I can't, maybe a teacher doesn't respond in Northport. I find it hard to believe, but if that were to happen, then if the teacher did not respond, it's the parent's responsibility to take it a step higher and talk with the principal. And to kind of work your way up the chain of command that's been established. It's not just here, it's the chain of command. And so that's how I've handled that.
So that kind of, I think, gets to my next question. The ideal way a parent can engage with the school with ideas, concerns, or feedback.
So we have a great PTO that's just gotten really off the ground in the past couple of years. So those parents can go to a PTO meeting and engage. There's multiple opportunities. I know, where's Laura? You've been in doing, what is the fair, the cotton candy machine, the donuts at the marina. There's so many ways to engage in the school. Now, I wouldn't expect a parent to dictate curriculum or to, tell Mrs. Brendel what she should be teaching in her class, because Mrs. Brendel is the expert. And if a teacher was not doing their job, I don't see myself as being the one to say, tisk tisk, you're not doing this right. That is not my job as a board member. That would go to the administration and they will take care of it. And if they don't, then it becomes a board issue.
Any other questions for Carrie?
I just wondered if you had any ideas on what could make the school run better, or the board meetings run better, or if you had any thoughts in that regard.
So I think the school day-to-day operation runs very well I don't know another place where a child can have access on any single day to a mental health specialist, one-on-one access. It's not like, okay, see me in my office at 2:55. It's direct access for just about any need that a child would have. So I really, and you know, if we just sit back and say, oh, you know, we're so good, we don't have anything else to do, that's not the case, because you need to keep moving forward. And that is what I witnessed as a staff for the 8 years that I was here. You know, we just like keep moving forward and learning together. We don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. But you have to be a willing learner. And in order to better the establishment.
What size was the board that you were on in Indiana?
So it was a 5-member board, and there were 2 election cycles every 2 years, and there were two people and then 3 people. I think I was on the 3 people. Or was I on the 2 people? I don't remember. But it was an election every 2 years for a 5-member board, and they were 4-year terms with no term limits.
And what size was the district?
Oh boy, I'm bad at numbers
Just
like
generally.
that. 5,000?
Oh, wow.
He's
Okay.
better at numbers than I am, so
Any other questions for Gary? Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
And just before we ask for nominations and hold a vote, I just wanted to mention that whoever is seated tonight will have to run again in November, and there are 3 seats open on the board. So
If they want to run.
if they want to remain on the board past November, they will need to run again. And the candidate that's not selected tonight will also have the opportunity to run for the appointed seat or 2 other seats, depending on how long they would like to serve. So, just putting that out there. Thank you both for being willing to serve and for coming here tonight. Did you have something?
I think there are 2 6-year terms and 1 2-year term up.
2 years is the remaining part of it. We have weird terms also because of the staggering the schedule.
So, is there a nomination for a new board member?
We're going out of sequence on the agenda. Do we want to?
We have consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Is there anything on the consent agenda that the board member would like removed for further discussion? Okay, hearing none, consider those approved. And now, is there a motion to elect a new board member to replace Jimmy Swift?
Are we going to use the ballots we have here?
We can, but since there's only 2, I think we can just do a roll call vote and vote someone up or down. I think the ballots work well when there's more than 2
Sure.
candidates.
Does anyone want to open the floor for discussion before we make a nomination? That's not the normal sequence of motion in the discussion, but is there any, would you like to do that?
That's fine with me, it's a pleasure of the board. Need more discussion or someone else?
Just wanted to see if any of the other board members had anything that they wanted to add or any. I mean, it's our only opportunity to discuss this among ourselves, is in front of everyone, for better or worse.
Just, if we don't use the ballots, if one person gets nominated, is this a yes or no for the other person? I mean.
Would you like to use the ballots? I mean, it's gonna be the same way, we'll just.
The only difference with the ballots is I think there's a slight advantage to someone being nominated first.
Okay, well, let's use the ballots then.
that it takes a little, one step of insulation, even though it's a public.
Is that the preference
Yeah,
or to
yeah,
use the
that sounds good.
Okay,
Are we ready to do that then? Yeah.
I think so. I don't know, Neil, do they get passed to me, or do we
Yeah.
just read them? Okay.
But they have to have our names on them next to you already. It's pre-printed.
I thought that you. We have a tie. Dan Duffney, Eric Potes, Ben Hale, Eric Potes, Daniel Percy, Eric Potes, Ryan Blessing, Kerry Wattis, Ben Purdy, Kerry, and Tom Weatherby, Kerry Wattis. Don't know where that leaves us.
Yeah, probably have to have another round of discussion and then another vote. But unless we get to some point in which we feel it's,
That's why we have multiple ballots.
right, at which point then we'd have to set it aside and you'd end up with the ISD appointing somebody.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Okay, any discussion?
Well, my thought on that, Eric and I had quite a discussion, and we've also exchanged some correspondence and things there. I have a little doubt that Eric will be elected at some point to the school board. I think, he's so enthused about it and he has support on there. But Carrie has so much experience that we could use her expertise at this point. She's also, I don't know what your plans are, but I get the impression that at some point you might want to step down as board president, because I'm not sure about that, but it seems like that, and she would be an obvious candidate for that sort of thing with her experience in doing that. That's why I voted for Carrie.
Yeah, that's really why I voted for it too, is, just that I would appreciate the help and experience that she would, bring to the table and help me do a better job of managing the board while I'm president perhaps, and maybe we'll seek that role sometime in the future.
I mean, I would be fine in either direction. I think both of you guys are outstanding, you know, you each have your different strengths, and I'd be happy to serve with either of you. You know, and if it's not now, then it's come November, and so that's where I stand, is, you know, I like Eric, that Eric brings freshness, and, you know, not that Carrie's not, Carrie obviously has all the experience, and it's totally different perspectives and different experiences. I think either one could be useful.
Both valuable, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I really do admire Kerry Wattis's experience, and I think that's an asset. I chose Eric because as a parent with students in this school, I think he has that perspective and represents that. I've also, as I've gotten to know Eric, I have enjoyed, to speak to your question about him being known as a hothead. Anytime that I've had a misstep with Eric, he's owned it and been apologetic about it, and that rate's pretty high in my book. And I guess he's a little bit more of an outsider. And that's, I think, having that representation here is important too.
You guys wanna weigh in on anything?
Either way, I appreciate Danielle's comment and Ben's, so.
It's good to have a tough decision.
Yeah, it's obvious it will be a bumpier ride with a brand new trustee that's never done this before, because it takes a while to learn what a school board's role is for the school and what we can and can't do. One of one of the things that's very frustrating when you first start on there is discovering all the things you can't do. You have such limited control over most of what the budget is, and you're dealing with state regulations and federal regulations, and it's the same thing that goes on with the village all the time. Two people get elected to that, and then they're enthusiastic to do things, and they find out of this pie that's this big, they get down to a little sliver that's about that big that's discretionary, and the rest of it just has to be done to keep the wheels on the bus.
Yeah, I agree with that, but as someone who came into this pretty green also, you know, you bumble through it, but sometimes that bumbling, I think, can create some good discussion.
Yeah, you're still in the learning curve stage.
Right, and, you know, with anything I do, I like having new people because it's a new perspective, and sometimes they're bumping around teaches you things.
Yeah, you should have a variety of people on a board, otherwise you don't only need one person if you all have the same opinion.
Yeah.
So I agree entirely that you should have some representation of all the different segments of the community.
Well, should we vote again? I don't know.
Should we rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah.
I mean,
Wizard spot.
Good one.
Okay, we have Ben Hale, Eric Coates, Brian Blessing, Eric Coates, Ben Purdy, Carrie Wattis, Dan Duffany, Carrie Wattis, Daniel Percy, Carrie Wattis, and Tom Weatherby, Carrie Wattis. So several changed their votes, but it looks like Carrie is seated.
So now we need to have a
Now we
motion.
have. Now, well, yes, in November we can have both. Okay,
I make the motion that the Northport Board of Education appoint Carrie Wattis to the Northport Board of Education to replace J.D. Scripps, who resigned June 14th, 2026.
okay, and do we vote again, or were the ballots our vote?
We should have a motion and a vote for it.
Any other discussion, or is there a second for that motion?
And it's one of those things where typically you've already committed yourself, you could change your vote on there,
Sure.
but it's in kind of bad form.
Who seconded that vote?
Dan didn't, any other time. Okay, and just in case anybody does feel like changing, let's do a roll call vote, please. And this is to appoint Carrie Wattis, so it's.
Tom Weatherby,
Yes.
Daniel Percy,
yes.
Ryan Blessing,
Yes.
Dan Duffany,
Yes.
Ben Hale,
Yes.
Ben Purdy.
Yes. Motion carries.
And that's the usual way, like, there's 10 times where we've hired a new superintendent that I was against. But once the board, the majority of the board had agreed what they're going to do, then it's good form to, to get behind it.
Okay,
If, I mean, just for a second here, say, I want to thank both of you for doing this, and Eric, I wish you luck in the election.
Thank you.
okay. I think now I am charged with administering the oath of office. So Carrie, would you come, or stand up?
Congratulations.
What do you want?
That.
Right here?
Yes.
Do I stand or sit?
Sure, if you would stand and I'll just repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. And I will, oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Let me stand behind you, wait, let
I
me
do
stand
s-
behind you.
Sorry, I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duty of the office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of member of the Board of Education
of member of the Board of Education
of Northport Public School
of Northport Public School
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next action item are the board policy updates. And these are the same policies that we read over last month.
No changes?
No changes.
Changes.
Besides, they moved it from board docs, so they've changed publishing platforms.
Again,
There'll be lots of changes, but nothing changing here, just how we have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion?
I have a bit of discussion. These are just the Neola policies, the changes recommended from Neola.
Correct.
Okay, since I haven't had a chance to, review everyone, I'm gonna abstain from voting this time.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same, and we'll note that, Carrie abstained from this vote. Next we have discussion items. Nothing listed there. Is there anything board members would like now or next month? The old business or new business? We have a PTO meeting on August 4th. It's at 6 p.m. at the Marina. And August 10th will be our next regular board meeting. And any other superintendent comments?
Just one, so the Hanover conversation has been percolating. I know we did not have a public presentation, I think in April, because the board decided they did not want a public presentation. So some of the information is out there, a lot of the context I think is missing. And so we intentionally looked for what the problems were. I think that 40% of our parent responses were parents who are not enrolled in the district. And it was a majority positive. I know that it was implied that it was not a majority, but a majority was positive, even with 40% of the parents not being our current parents.
So you're saying it's a self-selecting group that would tend to be negative? What?
No, but I am saying that if you have left the district at some point, and some of the comments, were 10 plus years old, and some were fresh, but we intentionally looked for what the problems were, because that's how we get better.
That makes sense.
Any questions from the board for Neil? Any other public comments at this time?
Eric again, thank you again for the opportunity to listen to me and interview me. My second time, hopefully the third time's a charm, in November. I wanted to go back to Mrs. Brendel's comment about student-led conferences. She said that you'd be lucky to get 5 minutes with a teacher. There's a lot to pack in there. And my experience with conferences historically before the student-led conferences has not been that. I'm going to specifically speak to Mrs. Post, who we spent a good amount of time with. And this was the basis of my email, which I'll share, to the district, providing the feedback that was asked for. My feedback, and I'll share this verbatim, but this is a synopsis, is there are things, we are so happy with Savannah's academics, so unbelievably happy. She is thriving. But there are areas of Savannah's life that people are not aware of. Social areas in her life. Sadness, using the counselor. not being able to say no or know how to stand up for herself on a playground. These were the things that we spent so much time with. Mrs. Post being the best, but other teachers as well, spending that time. And my gosh, was it way over 5 minutes every single time. And those were such valuable experiences for Erin and I. Now, it keeps getting argued, well, you can just reach out to teachers, you can just reach out to teachers. Yes, we can, and we will. But this is not what this is about. What this is about is the district asked, how did it go? We did student-led conferences. Can we please have some feedback? Myself and Ben gave very constructive, kind, polite feedback. And instead of getting any response at all, we came to a board meeting and found teachers sitting here quiet that wouldn't look at us in silent solidarity. That's a huge problem. And so I just wanted to talk to Mrs. Brendle's 5-minute comment, which is very, very false. That's it. I look forward to trying to run in November. Thank you. Mrs. Waters, I'm sad that you have to step down from teaching to be able to take that seat. It's awesome you get to work in the same place your daughter's working too. And it's like a whole family thing, and that's wonderful. I look forward to seeing you all at the next board meeting, so thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Mrs. Brundle?
Yeah, to be clear, I meant other districts. All the other districts that I've been involved in, conferences were very, very short. Conferences were 5 minutes and that's all you had. That was what I was speaking to, not here. This is, you're given plenty of time to have conversations with teachers. My biggest point was conferences are a place to share what's happening, but if there are conflicts, you have likely had conversations and had communication with your teacher prior to that. If teachers are waiting to conferences to say, hey, your child is a problem in my classroom, this is what's happening, then they're remiss. And if you are waiting to approach your teacher at the conference and you've had issues.
Brendle, I'll just remind you to speak to the board.
Sorry, and you've had concerns, I'm sorry, and you've had concerns up to that point, then you are remiss because you should have reached out to your classroom teacher. So that was where I was coming from, not that this was 5 minutes. And that is also encouraged. Communication is encouraged by the administration all the way along. If you're ever having issues with children in your classrooms, academic, social, if you're seeing things that you have concerns with and you want to talk to the parents, you should be doing that prior to conferences.
Any other comments? Okay. Any board member comments?
I just thank everyone for the process. It went well.
Thanks to everybody for being civil and willing to serve. And any board member comments? If not, is there a motion for? Oh,
And
yes.
one quick thing, I know it's difficult when a board member's in a position where they have to choose two candidates that they might think are equal or close. And I know that that's tough, and I appreciate your vote of confidence.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for everybody for coming.
Not regular. It's like
One
way
big
confirming your attendance.
Excuse me, what are you in your phone?
Oh, yeah.
I want the first post for board teacher to go.
All right, well, they're coming up.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
I know everybody's, yeah.
Yeah.